True crimers, welcome to Break the Case. I'm your host. I'm Jen Coffindaffer. This could not be more fortuitous, having a show right at this moment. And let me tell you why. There's breaking news regarding Melanie Buzzard's mom, Ashley. Melodee's mom, Ashley, apparently was picked up this morning, had a court hearing, and then, according to authorities at the jail, quote, may be detained after that hearing took place. And in fact, it was interesting. This was actually a TikToker that went into the courthouse, into the information booth area, if you will. And it was interesting. The response of the individual in there that responded said, "Oh, you want to know if she's still in custody?" And I thought, geez, you're kind of giving a little bit up there. But then she was directed to reach out via phone. And she had to dial this number like 811 right there at the facility. I'm actually going to bring this facility up so you can see what I'm talking about. This is where this all took place. And this is just hitting the air literally just moments ago. And this was the location. And then a phone call is made. And that person apparently says there was a court proceeding. So maybe she was picked up to be taken to this proceeding, and that she may be detained. So I am just now learning about this. I posted this on my Twitter to give appropriate recognition to this person. It was somebody I'd never heard of, but I was just scrubbing everything before I came on. So anyway, this is very, very good news. I think that there's some movement, but we have the best person that we could have to break this down. Philip Dube, background, long time, decades long defense attorney in LA, prosecutor in LA. Listen, this guy walked the walk. I always say that before I introduce him, because there's a lot of talking heads that either never really practiced for decades, or, we're ambulance chasers. And for those ambulance chasers that are out there, listen, everyone has to make a living. I'm not trying to degrade them, but I am talking about criminal cases, defense work, criminal prosecutive work. And that's what we cover here. So that's why we're bringing on Philip Dube. Without further ado, hi, Philip. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Jennifer? Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here. I couldn't think of a more apropos person to talk about what is going on with Ashley. I'm going to put her up on the screen. This is the mother of Melodee. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, if you're just tuning in, Melodee Buzzard went missing. Let me try to bring her up on the screen. Sorry. Melodee Buzzard has been missing now. Officially, the last time she was seen was on October 7th, but that was actually FBI footage obtained, I should say, from law enforcement at a car rental place where she was with her mother. They rented a vehicle on the 7th, and they literally, and it's almost impossible to do, they traveled to Nebraska, which, pedal to the metal, 70 miles an hour. You guys can do the math. If you don't stop, it's a 20-hour trip. Nobody averages 70 miles an hour. You have to stop. You have to go to the bathroom. You have to gas up. So literally they drove for probably well over a day and a half if they didn't stop someplace. And then it seems whatever happened there, she came back a circuitous route through Kansas, so something could have happened there. But it literally was just constant driving for this to work out. Many people have been asking, why hasn't Ashley been arrested? We have this missing girl. Nobody's seen hide nor hair of her. Philip has the answers. Let's talk a little bit about it, of course, keeping in mind this breaking news that she may be detained as we speak. Go ahead, Philip.
Well, where do I begin?
Let's be more pointed. I'm going to be more pointed. Philip, it was 10/7. We know a search warrant was served on 10/15 at the house. And here we are on 10/30, 15 days later, and possibly she was taken in. But why post search warrant with her missing now for 2 weeks? Why can't law enforcement do anything?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, they can. But in order to take any action whatsoever, it would have to be on one of two tracks. One is the criminal tract, where if they have probable cause to believe that a crime has been committed against the child, such as an abduction, any type of physical abuse, sexual abuse, and of course, God forbid, a homicide. And in fact, I don't even think they need a warrant for that. As long as they have probable cause, they can just go take her in. But if they don't have probable cause to arrest or to even get a warrant, what they can do is try to get her into the dependency courts. The dependency courts are civil courts where judges declare minors under the age of 18 wards of the court upon evidence that the child is either abused, abandoned, or neglected. Neglect does not mean impoverished. Neglect does not mean unhoused. It could mean if you are the child of a mentally ill parent, guardian, or foster parent. If you are in the care of somebody who is mentally ill, the dependency court can get involved and remove that child from the home and place them either with a family member or in a foster home. So somebody initiated a hotline call, and my guess is it was her last school. Because she was deemed to be chronically truant, absent from school, they are duty bound if they cannot reach the parents to notify the hotline. And that's what they did. They called it DCFS hotline. Schools are mandated reporters if they cannot locate a child or get a hold of a parent of a child who is enrolled and there's no evidence that the child was either withdrawn or otherwise disenrolled from the school. So it sounds to me as if the school generated a hotline call. DCFS went out to the house to make a home visit and follow up on the whereabouts and the well-being of the child, and they couldn't make contact with mom. All right, does that mean the child has been abducted? Likely not. She is the sole custodial parent of the child. Biological dad passed away, I believe, when this child was just an infant, and there is no evidence of a crime. Merely crossing state lines with your child is not a crime. The child is not being abducted. Merely leaving that child with a trusted loved one or a friend, even out of state, is not a crime. However, if the child is left for an extended period of time, usually it's 6 months or more, the child is deemed to be abandoned under California law, and that is grounds to go into the California Dependency Court on a petition to have the child declared a ward of the court, hopefully locate the child, and place that child with a loved one or in foster care. So what the court can do right now, if we call it a 300 petition under California law, a Welfare and Institutions Code section 300 petition, the judge can hear the petition. If there's evidence of abuse, abandonment, or neglect, the court can order the parent into court and testify under oath where the kid is. If she refuses to answer questions, she's going into custody. The court can actually detain a parent who will not be straight with the court about the whereabouts of a child if there is clear and convincing evidence that the child is either abused, abandoned, or neglected. The question then becomes, how long can they keep the parent? Well, if it's clear to the court that the parent or guardian has told them everything they know, then you have to let them out, because it's almost like a form of contempt. You're held in contempt until you're willing to come clean with the court and tell the court what it wants or what it needs to know. But if she has no further information, then she has to be released. The criminal court is the second track. And again, as we talked earlier, there's no crime yet. At most, what you might have is a child who is habitually truant or absent from school, and that is criminalized right now in California as a misdemeanor. 270.1 criminalizes the absenteeism, chronic absenteeism of a child where the parent is doing nothing about it. The problem is it's only a misdemeanor. And wouldn't you know it that on October the 1st of this year, our beloved governor of California, Gavin Newsom, signed a bill into law decriminalizing that statute, meaning you can no longer arrest or incarcerate a parent who will not make sure that their kid is not truant. And the reason why they repealed that law is because they have determined that it has a disproportionate impact on the underserved communities in California, namely Black and brown people, frankly. That's the bottom line, that when you have a lot of Black and brown kids coming from the home of a single parent, and there's no trusted guardian, custodian, or maybe even a conservator or somebody else to take care of that child, while that custodial parent is in custody for not enforcing the compulsory education laws of California, then basically what you're doing is you're orphanizing a kid. And the legislature found that it was not in the best interest of society to lock kids or parents up for being truant. So instead, what they do is they provide services. They try to figure out, why is this kid truant? Why is this kid not going to school? And they have multidisciplinary teams of professionals that work with the family to try to get that kid back in school. If they can't do it, well, unfortunately, there really is no criminal pathway to arrest the parent for it. And unfortunately, this new law that went into effect October 1st has retroactive effect, meaning, let's say they file criminal charges against mom, the misdemeanor, and as of January 1, the case is still pending. She has not pled out. There's been no trial. That law is no longer enforceable retroactively. You cannot take criminal action against that non-compliant parent, unfortunately. So where does it leave us? Well, it's really left on the county to prove to a dependency court by clear and convincing evidence that the child is in danger of abuse, abandonment, or neglect. And if they don't meet that burden, the petition is dismissed. The child is returned to the custody of the parent, and the case is over.
Okay, let me touch on, you touched on a lot of points here.
Yes.
I break a couple down. First of all, this law that took place October 1st, which basically also is retroactive, meaning that anybody who had in previous months or weeks, such as in this case, allowed their child to be truant, no longer is it a criminal offense. And there's really nothing that can be done. And this is a brand new law that just took place that obviously has a lot of impact on the Melodee Buzzard case, as I see it. Secondarily, you talked about the fact of truancy surrounding somebody attending school. From what we know, she was quote unquote homeschooled. I want you to really quick touch on that point. In other words, it was very interesting that there was a call in, and I know different states are different. Where is California when your child is homeschooled in terms of touching base with the district?
Well, first of all, the U.S. Supreme Court held decades ago that parents have a fundamental right under substantive due process to pull their kids out of public school, private school, even parochial school, and can homeschool them. It's their right, it's their prerogative. And we see this, for example, in the Amish community, where they want to prepare their kids for the agrarian lifestyle, and they don't feel that the public or even the private school environment is the right setting to prepare them for the future that their faith holds. And that's their choice. And the courts have said that that is a constitutional right. Now, having said that, The compulsory education laws still survive, meaning, okay, homeschool, parochial school, private school, public school, whatever your choice is, you need to make sure that your kid is getting schooled. Otherwise, you could be in violation of the compulsory education laws. Mom availed herself, Ashley Buzzard, to the homeschool procedures in California. And the way it works is you can literally disenroll your kid from public school. You fill out it's called a private school affidavit. They call it private school, but it's all encompassing, meaning private school, parochial school, homeschooling. And you file it with the state's Department of Education. And as long as you can show that you have a curriculum in place for the kid and that they're going to be educated certain number of hours in the day and certain number of days in the week, you will be approved. But that form has to be submitted annually. If you fail to submit it, then your duty to enroll the kid in private, public, or parochial school is triggered. If you don't do it, then the last school on record for the child will get involved, and they will make inquiry with the family to find out where the kid is, why the kid isn't enrolled, why the kid is absent. If they cannot reach the family or the kid, they put a call into the hotline because they are mandated reporters under California law. If they have a child known to them who is previously enrolled, who is not brought to school, they cannot reach the parents, they cannot reach the kid, they have a duty to report it so that law enforcement, DCFS can get involved in the best interests of that child. Because in the end, that's what it's all about, is to protect the interests of the kid. It's not to safeguard mom and make sure her interests are protected, that she gets all the forms filled out properly so she's not whacked on the wrist by law enforcement or by some of these governmental agencies. It's designed to make sure the kid is safe, healthy, and happy and getting the education that's required under state law. And that's the full nature and extent of it. So they went out to the house. They could not make contact with mom. They certainly could not find Melodee. So what did they do? They escalated it to DCFS, who sent the social worker out, and whatever investigation they did got reported to their county council within Santa Barbara County. And they probably felt the need to initiate a petition in the dependency court to get an order from the judge to either order mom in, to explain the whereabouts of the kid, to get the kid declared a ward of the court so they can get that child placed or adjudicated into the proper home, assuming they can make out by clear and convincing evidence that the child has been abused, abandoned, or neglected. If there is no such evidence, the petition is dismissed, the child is restored to mom, and they can go on about their lives.
So this answers a big question, I think, for our breaking news here about this court that took place today that Ashley was apparently at. And it makes sense that it would be this dependency court. And that is why the officials at this location said, listen, it's a possibility she could be detained. And as I mentioned, another individual stated, and I heard it for myself, said, you mean is she still in custody, meaning Ashley? So it's possible that she didn't provide the answers that you're saying she has to provide to a dependency judge. And if she didn't, that they could have detained her. My question is, how long can they detain her if she was unwilling to provide question or answers at the dependency court about Melodee?
They can keep the parent in custody until they say where the child is, and that's basically of indefinite duration, or until the court is satisfied that the parent has told them everything they need, that she knows. If that's all she knows, for example, if she says, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
Nobody's going to believe that she doesn't know because she.
I'm just telling you. Let's just, for the sake of discussion, say that she says to the court, I don't know where she is. I have no idea. I last saw her on such and such date. Well, did you report her missing? No. Did you go to the police? No. So as you stand here now, ma'am, under oath, you don't know where your child is? No. Any questions from county counsel? Any questions from defense counsel? and then you take it from there. If the court is satisfied that she doesn't know or she's given up everything she knows, the court has to release her. You cannot just hold somebody indefinitely if they're not in warrant status and no charges are pending, or if she's not in contempt by refusing to answer. Let's say she just refused to answer. If she refused to answer, the court could send her back to county jail and keep her sitting in stir until she decides to sing like a bird. But unless and until she does, she will rot in the women's county jail.
Great. That's what we want to know. We want to know what's happening, because when you look at the fact that she may still be detained or may have been detained, this answers a lot of questions. We know for sure that she was escorted. We know for sure there was a court appearance. We know for sure that she could have been detained. So you've provided so much information as to how long she could be detained. It's basically like a contempt of court, as you mentioned. If you're in contempt of court, you can be thrown until you decide to cooperate with that judge or that official.
Exactly.
So let me, with what we have here, and I think we have a lot. I see a lot of probable cause to look at this as a neglect case. But I like that you and I are on the opposite, I think, viewpoint of this. Let's kind of play some devil's advocate with each other. My side of it is regarding Ashley. Is Ashley, based on this, based on what her mother, her own mother has said, Ashley's mother said that she has mental health problems. Her mental health started declining when she lost her husband back in 2016. In 2000, she had Melodee taken away from her. An uncle cared for her for a while until she could get it together. The last time Melodee's mother saw, Ashley's mother saw little Melodee, she was living in squalor, spoiled food, eggs out on the counter. And we all know that when you have spoiled food and everything, this means you're going to have roaches, you're going to have rats, you're going to have other disgusting maggots and insects around. And that the grandmother said she believed she was eating like this. So I'm almost done making my case here. We know that the paternal side has not been involved at all with Melodee, although a approximately 30-year-old stepsister of Melodee tried to get custody. That failed. That makes a lot of sense. And you can explain why it's never going to go that a stepsister is going to get custody over a mother unless she's 100% proven unfit. And we have now, I'm going to fast track to the fact that she hadn't been seen by school officials since August, finally was reported. A search warrant was done at her house on October 15th. And we saw her in this regalia. According to law enforcement, this is a wig. Look at how she's dressed. I mean, concealing type of attire.
Yeah.
Scooted off to Nebraska on this trip that, like I said, would have been so difficult for anybody to drive, even long haul drivers. This would be difficult to go 3,000 miles round trip in 3 days. Mm-hmm. So help us out with how those facts I just gave doesn't give us enough to say, problem with this mom and issue concerning her ability to care for this child.
Well, first of all, again, under California law, you only remove the child after declaring the child a ward of the court if there is evidence of abuse, abandonment, or neglect. Under the neglect prong, if the court believes that mom is too mentally ill, too mentally unhealthy to care for the child, that is a form of neglect. It doesn't mean mom is a bad person. It just means she's incapable. So the court on that basis, like right now, if she is presenting with symptoms before the judge in open court on the record as being sort of spiraling downward or decompensating from unmedicated mental illness, the court can order a psych evaluation. The court can have her seen for a determination of fitness to keep this child. And if the psych report comes back negatively, the court can declare the child a ward in absentia, even though they don't even have that child. Let DCFS take over, work hand in glove with law enforcement to try to locate the kid, and then get the kid placed in a home where everybody is of sound mind. But as we said earlier, this child, Melodee, I don't know how old she was removed once before by the dependency court. Ashley's sister-in-law, I think her name is Lizbeth Meza, had reported that Melodee had been removed because mom was too mentally ill. She couldn't handle it. And it seems like that during that absent period where the child was with the relative and away from mom, mom got her act together. She got on her meds, maybe even got a job, got maybe some what they call SNAP money, stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which in the old days we called it food stamps. Today they give you an EBT card, the electronic balance transfer. It looks like a debit card, so you can go buy groceries. You know, in the old days it was stigmatizing seeing moms in the checkout line with what looked like play money or Monopoly money, and it was embarrassing. You know, so they came up with the EBT program, both for efficiency and it's cheaper. They don't have to have physical currency. But she got her act together in a way that, or to the satisfaction of the court, that they could be reunified. So the court terminated the wardship, terminated the placement, and returned the child to mom. Unfortunately, it seems like mom may have decompensated, maybe stopped taking her meds, maybe the condition has become much more acute, and she's not able to take care of her kid the way an otherwise healthy mom would. But again, it doesn't mean she's a bad person, it just means she's incapable. But she certainly has the street smarts to know not to talk to police, to know not to talk to DCFS, and to not talk to school officials, because she is terrified that if they suspect that she might be hearing voices, internal stimuli, or is otherwise unstable, that they're going to go into court and take the kid. And that's why I think she drove that kid out of state, placed that kid with a loved one or a friend so that the child is not removed from the home. I hope for this child's sake, that's what happened. I hope that this child is healthy and wise, but obviously we don't have enough information right now and time will tell.
You know, I love what your speculation is, because your speculation means she's alive.
Yes.
And there's only, to be clear, there's only three possibilities in my mind. The one you just named, that she drove her to somebody that she knows that other family members don't. Remember, family members have been interviewed by various media outlets, and I've listened to all of those, and all of them say they don't know anybody in Nebraska or Kansas. So but it could be somebody unknown. They've been so estranged from her. The grandmothers had nothing to do with her for 2 years, and the other people, the last time we know that she was in safe hands outside of the mother's care was in 2000. So she would have only been about 4 years old, probably where all these pictures are coming from. This picture is 2 years old. She was 7 here. And recall, you know, how odd that is for you not to have pictures of a child. You know, no social media that we can find and put our hands on to find updated pictures. And this is what I'm concerned about. So back to the original possibilities. One, she's with a friend over there that the mom knows. Number two, and this was speculated by the stepsister, the 30-year-old stepsister of Melodee, was that she sold her. Now, I don't know why she finds that something to speculate in, but let's face it, you know, the trafficking of children is pervasive. Mm-hmm. And the idea that somebody she could have been communicating with, meaning the mom, Ashley, online in her state of mind, not being well, and being convinced perhaps to, for an amount of money, be in that person's care. That's a possibility. Then obviously number three, we don't even want to discuss, and that's that it's a Letitia Stouch situation, that Melodee is no longer with us.
Right.
But you had some pretty strong reasons why you felt that number one, option one, is more what you think could be going on here.
Well, first of all, I'm a hopeless optimist. I am. And believe it or not, Jennifer, I have actually seen this many times in my career, where you have single mom, addicted, habitually drunk, with a child. In fact, it's usually more than one child, but loves their children. But they are just physically, mentally, and financially incapable of taking care of the kids. The tragedy is when you have siblings and they're divvied up and placed into different homes, they lose that sibling bond and ability to grow up together. And I got the cases in the public defender world where mom never got her act together and dad's in prison. Those are the sad cases. But we've also had the cases where mom did get her act together and got the kids back, but then relapsed. And let me tell you, when you have a young child like this and you have an unstable home and upbringing, the court is going to be none too pleased with a relapse. And I could see that as a basis to permanently terminate parental rights, because in the end, that is the ultimate doomsday sanction in the dependency courts. Obviously, the goal is to provide services, keep the families united, not tear them apart. You want them to be reunified. But if mom is incapable because of mental illness and maybe even a co-occurring drug disorder, who knows? Maybe she's using illicit street drugs, or maybe has a drinking problem, and she's just incapable of taking care of the kid. That is grounds to remove the kid and to terminate parental rights. So then where does it leave the child? Well, the kid could get placed with a relative and even be adopted by that relative, or the kid could go into foster care and could be adopted by a foster family, or, I hate to say it, the older the kid gets, they get bounced from foster home to foster home to foster home until they age out. And then what happens at 18? They boot them out of the system and they're on their own. And they have nobody. This child's biological father, I believe, passed away. Mom is incapable, unless she chooses to try to rekindle a relationship with mom once she's of age. That's fine too. I don't know what kind of a relationship they would have, assuming that is the situation. But at least she does have a mother out there, and maybe she'll have the means and the ability to help her mom when she's an adult, if she so chooses. But otherwise, between now, the age of 9, and the age of majority, this child is in for so much heartache. And that's what's really sad, because remember, the backdrop of all of this in the dependency system is to watch out for the best interests of the minor. And that's really what the court is trying to do.
Right. I agree. But when I look at this case, I feel like we are so far from even any of that, unfortunately, even thinking down the road, because we have no idea where Melodee is. We have no idea if she's even alive. I know you think she's alive based on cases.
I do.
Based on the case that typically, even, it doesn't matter whether you're impoverished or having a mental crisis, that you could you still have a lot of love for your child, just not have the means to take care of them. But let me take it to the step further of somebody that is a parent that is so paranoid. She has her child dressing like this. She has her 9-year-old wearing a wig. There's another picture where that's the one where she has this purse, just totally in disguise. What I can see, I mean, this just to me shows a lot of paranoia. Plus, what mother does not want to help law enforcement find their kid? I'll tell you what mother, and you touched on it, a mother that thinks they're going to lose their child in the courts.
Yes.
Let's talk about this a little bit. I'm going to bring you back to the the Laundrie cases, both Chris and Roberta Laundrie, and how even with law enforcement on their steps, even with Gabby Petito, who was dead, her van being in their front yard, even with all the circumstantial evidence that was pointing to Brian Laundrie being responsible before before the body was found, and even after the body was found, they never said a word, still haven't said a word other than in civil. So we know that they knew she was dead and that he killed her. We know that now, but we never knew that back then in all that time because they zipped it.
Mm-hmm.
Is the difference here because you're talking about really the parental rights of a parent being able to drop somebody off in Nebraska as opposed to somebody that was responsible, you know, a girl or a boyfriend that was with a girlfriend that returned?
Additionally, remember, parents have legal duties to their children when they're underage. The courts are there and the police are there to enforce parental duties. Unfortunately, when the child reaches the age of majority, unless that child becomes an adult dependent of the parent, there's really no enforcement mechanism. There's no teeth in the law, no way to coerce or force or otherwise compel a parent to give up what, if anything, they know about an adult child. There's just no obligation, especially if it could incriminate them. If it could, at the state or the federal level, kind of give clues to the commission of a crime, they have a Fifth Amendment privilege to keep it zipped and not say a word. Where they get into trouble is that they start lying about it and misleading families of the victims, because it could give rise to tort liability, especially in Florida. Florida has some unique case law where if you know of the whereabouts of a family's loved one and you lie about it, that could give rise to a cause of action for intentional infliction of emotional distress. It's a unique carve out in the law of tort in the state of Florida. And that is why the Petito family was able to sue the Laundrie family and get them into depositions, get them into interrogatories, requests for admissions, and try to get to the bottom of what happened to their daughter. And it all happened because of the Laundrie's attorney. Everything that the attorney said to the press, even though it wasn't coming out of the mouth of Brian's parents, is imputed to the parents as an admission by a party opponent in a representative capacity. Meaning, when I go out in front of a courthouse standing next to my client and I make a statement on behalf of my client to the press, that statement is imputed to my client. It's like I am their mouthpiece. I am their bullhorn. I am essentially their alter ego, if you will. And if you say something that could harm another, it could be actionable, particularly in the state of Florida. And that's why they ended up in litigation. So my point is this: I think the Petito Laundrie case is distinguishable from the Buzzard case in that the victim in this case is still a minor.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm just trying to think what law enforcement can do right now. And you've really made it pretty clear what's probably happened because we know she was in court. You've described how that court is probably dependency court. The fact that she hasn't exited, or at least the people watching her house and watching that, we put this up earlier, watching the courthouse she went to hasn't exited. I mean, people are out there, they're watching, waiting. So this would mean she could have been detained. And from what you're saying, she could be detained indefinitely if she doesn't see where Melodee is?
That's correct. And what makes it precarious is, at least in California, all of the proceedings in the dependency courts are not public. They are confidential. They are non-public. They cannot be released. Everything is deemed sealed after the case is over. So there is no way for any of this stuff to be made public unless mom comes out of court and decides to talk to the press or talk to friends and loved ones and they go public with it. But this court is not going to reveal anything to the media. I can guarantee you that. And if they do, they're going to be the next Becky Hill because they're going to get in trouble. Okay. Remember her? Remember our hero, Becky?
Yep, exactly.
I felt sorry for Becky. I don't know why. I think they came down a little too hard on her. It was unnecessary. That's my opinion. There should have been a consequence, like remove her from office. Okay. But to prosecute her and send her to prison, I think is a little too heavy handed. That's just me.
You know what? You're a kind soul. I'm a victim's advocate, and this case has me so worried. I
Yeah.
hope you're right. I hope she's in the care of somebody that she knows. But again, who knows what that person is like? If the person making the decision about who she should be with is a mentally unstable Ashley. I mean, come on, let's think about this with her level of paranoia. And I know you cited a good case where the individual took a child and put them in the care and custody of somebody they knew and things worked out. Unfortunately, as cases drag on, oftentimes they're not found. Usually it's the first 72 hours. That's just the way it is. And that's a high percentage, like 80-90% of missing people are found within the first 72 hours. So when you have a child case that's gone on now for weeks, I think we have to hold out with your scenario, but I'm very worried it could have been an online entity that, you know, she was talked into taking her to. Let me tell you why I think this could be possible. I'm sure other people in the audience know about people like this, but I have somebody in the extended family, let's just say, and then I have somebody else that I have known since I was about 14 years old that I'm still very close to. And both of those individuals suffer with, I call it a beautiful mind. For those of you who watched the movie, and it's actually based on truth, I think it's Russell Crowe that's in it, that his mind, for whatever reason, and I truly think it's because the people, both of the people I know are off the charts. One had a perfect MCAT score as an example.
Wow.
Off the charts intelligent wise, but it's almost like some other part of their brain is unlocked that has this imagination that becomes for them the reality.
At what age? At what age did it start? I'm curious.
With the individual that is a good, very close friend, that started at about the age of, I want to say 15, 16.
There you go.
Due to trauma, I mean, trauma was the impetus, and that was the breakdown of the family.
Yes.
His father left the mother and ended up being a bit of a cad in this whole situation. Anyway, it was very, very traumatic on this person. And the other person, that is a extended family member, that person, her husband left her.
I see.
And she was a home mother. And that happened at about the age of, I want to say, early 30s.
Okay. Got it.
My point is, with all of this, is having known people who are in this world. As an example, that very close friend of mine, that friend of mine was so convinced that, I'm not kidding you, that the Chinese government was chasing the person.
Mm-hmm.
They are a very, anyway, they're very, they had a great occupation.
Mm-hmm.
They used their money and went to Australia,
mm-hmm.
became homeless in Australia, and wrote me, as I said, we're dear friends going way back, wrote me about a 29-page letter, as not only because we were friends, but because I was an FBI agent, begging me for the FBI to investigate these people who were after that. Mm-hmm. That is how real it is to them. and basically worked with the brother of this person who's an attorney. And in Australia, they have great laws. They were able to take this person because we figured out he gave me these clues about where he was, and he was actually posing as a worker in a hospital.
Mhm.
They were able to figure it out, got him, put him in a paddy wagon, literally. Like, you can't do that in the US, but there you can. You can hire a goon squad. They gooned him up and got him in there and gave him the appropriate medicine he needed. And
Mhm.
that was, geez, that was probably 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And fine on medication, 100% fine on medication.
Yes.
My point is, when people are suffering these sorts of paranoias, and Lord knows what decisions they will make.
Well, here's the thing. This is how I perceive Ashley. I think she is aware. She has insight into her mental illness, and she might be partially medicated, or she could be self-medicating with drugs. Who knows? If I recall correctly, she might have vape pens, maybe even a little weed. I don't know what else to maybe help calm the voices and the internal stimuli. But her number one priority, it seems, is her daughter. And she's doing whatever she can to prevent this child from getting detained and taken from her. So what is she doing? She's putting like a hoodie on her. So nobody will say, oh, there's Melodee. Let's get her. Let's get her out of harm's way. Let's get her into a safe, loving home with parents who have their wits about them. In her paranoid, delusional mind, she feels like the world is after her and trying to take the daughter again. I'm not sure that she would be going to all of this effort if she didn't have that prior experience. If the kid had not been once before removed, she might not have become quite so paranoid. But if we're honest, I think her paranoia and her beliefs are well taken. If, remember, if, right, if past is prologue as we know it, she's in fear that this child will be taken away from her again. And what do we know if they have to take this child twice? They're going to move to terminate parental rights. And this kid is only 9. That means mom is going to be deprived of a good 9 additional years of this child's youth. And this child will go into another home. And she's trying to prevent that, assuming I'm correct. I do not believe that this child is being trafficked. I just do not. I think mom is going to too much trouble to protect this child as opposed to that crackhead mom who pimps their child out. I'm not seeing that here. She's going to too much effort to keep her kid educated, looking beautiful, and fed as best as possible. And by the way, Santa Barbara is beautiful. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's probably one of the most expensive places to live in the United States. So if you are down and out and having financial problems, Santa Barbara is not the place to be because it's very, very expensive to live there. So I'm sure she is struggling financially and psychologically.
But you're right. That doesn't necessarily equate to wanting to hurt Melodee.
Exactly.
You know, I want to thank you for coming on and giving us your legal insight from somebody, again, who's been a defense attorney and a prosecutor in LA, knows California law like the back of your hand. You're always who I go to, particularly on California cases, because I know it. You know, exactly explained what I bet that court that she was taken to this morning was probably that dependency courtroom. So thanks for all your clarity. Thanks for all you do and for being such a great friend of the channel. And let's pray you're right and that Melodee is in care of somebody and maybe just doesn't know, because I think a lot of people might be asking or might be saying, well, wait a minute, you have to be under a rock not to understand people are looking for Melodee and, you know, be part of this conspiracy to keep her. But what I always say to this, and especially when it comes to the jury pool, except for maybe in Massachusetts, so many people have no idea what's on in true crime. They don't know about
Yeah.
missing people, other than if you're a true crimer or you're a newsie. you just have never probably heard of Melodee. Shoot, there's people still that have no idea who Sebastian Rogers is.
Of course.
That's
Yeah.
been on a year and a half. So I think it is possible that somebody could be with Melodee and have no idea that there's a nationwide search for her with the FBI.
So we don't need shrines or memorials yet, or people singing Amazing Grace. Not yet. We should all be singing the Barney song. You know, I love you. You know, remember that from, I don't know what show that was. Okay.
Oh,
And,
I remember it, my son.
okay, absolutely. And I'll put on the Mr. Rogers cardigan and have positive thoughts, because I truly believe this child is okay. And she will be shortly singing nursery rhymes and, I don't know, Taylor Swift songs and everything else. And certainly no funeral hymns. Okay. So,
All right. Let's keep that positive attitude, Philip, until next time. Thank you again so much for gracing us with your intelligence and your presence.
All right. Peace out from Tinseltown. Be well.
Everybody, I just have to say I love having Philip on. We have a lot of attorney friends with this show. I enjoy each of them, but boy, Philip just, you know, if you are a drama crimer and love the drama going on, like right now, the big drama thing that I'm just trying to stay away from. And unless you all beg me to go there, or if I see people asking me on my Twitter, I'm just staying away from the whole Lauren Matthias situation. I just have to touch on it just to say that, you know, originally when I saw the little tidbit, I saw the beginning of a 9-hour live, which no, I haven't watched it, to see a grown woman that I had had dinner with 2 years prior in the fetal position saying she was being stalked and, you know, going with that she would be honest and truthful about that, and that she was considering killing herself. I'm always there. I think for those of you who do monitor my Twitter, in the past 3 months, I've had 4 people contact me, telephone me, or otherwise communicate with me about killing themselves for various reasons. And Lauren was one of those. And that's why I had said, hey, you know, I'm here and I am here for anyone who is considering self-harm. However, boy, I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't like the facts that I'm seeing. And I may decide to post some of those. I just yesterday watched the interview. It was actually police approaching the alleged stalker. And I watched this woman be kicked out of CrimeCon. And for those of you who have never gone to CrimeCon, I want to say this. It is such a kind of cool vibe, such a big group, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. I don't know how many people were there. It was hundreds and hundreds. And they pay a huge amount for these tickets, over $1,000, depending on what kind of ticket, you know, to see these, you know, different seminars and different speakers and just, you know, hobnob with their favorite true crimers, whether they be podcasters or whether they be the people you see on TV, whether they be the docuseries people, whatever, they're all there. Like everybody is there. And I got to tell you, I felt terrible for her once I validated that it was true that she had her tickets well in advance, and that bothered me. And then I also had a chance to review the court proceeding. I have not posted either of those. I'm thinking about posting them. Part of me just wants to stay out of it because this is a true true crime channel. You know, I love to have attorneys on. I love to have psychologists on. I love to have profilers on, fellow law enforcement, multiple FBI agents, SWAT people to talk about things like assassinations and tactics. And that's what I had always hoped would sort of set this channel apart, that would really focus on that and stay away from the drama. But I got to tell you, that situation is really starting to bother me. So anyway, I haven't made any decision for right now. I'm just going to stay focused on Melodee. I'm going to stay focused on Sebastian Rogers. Obviously focused on Irina Zarutska, that case, the case of Charlie Kirk and that assassination and how that case progresses. Of course, Luigi Mangione. I will always update the Idaho case. The Idaho case is so close to my heart and will always be. Those kids were the same age as my kids when they were viciously murdered. I can't stand BK. I think he got off on such a ridiculous deal. Boy, I'm keeping it spicy Thursday. I'm still irritated about that. But nevertheless, I just wanted to thank you all for being here. I know we don't bring in the drama and the, that jazz, but I tell you what, if you want to know truth and facts about true crime, we are here for you. I hope you like the show today. And my goal is 5 o'clock every single day to do a show. That's my new goal. Is it going to happen? It's going to be really hard. I'm right in the throes of several cases in my real job. And so it's hard, but I'm going to try to block it out, even if I'm driving and it's 15 minutes about something I'm monitoring or a case or an update. So everybody, if you will, mark your calendars, mark your time frame. If 5 o'clock Eastern works for you, we are here for you. And that's going to be my goal. And like I say, it might be 5 o'clock. I might be in my pajamas working on my expert witness stuff and just take a break and say, hi, everybody, I'm coming to you to talk about, because there's always a case that I'm tracking. I just named a lot of them. And I'm going to try to get much more connected with you all. And because I enjoy this, I really do. And I'd love to see your comments. I'll be reading them after I get off. Till next time, everybody, hopefully you like this show. Hopefully you'll subscribe. That's free. Maybe you'll even become a member if you have $1 a month. I think it's literally 99 cents or $1.99 a month to become a member. And I do a lot of shows that I only do on the member side, or I start on the member side and then later convert it. But anyway, until next time, everybody, thanks for being here, and may Melodee Buzzard be found.